The siege of the Zephyrian capital ended on a cold morning when Admiral Harrison's Marines breached the final bunker where the Empire's leadership had been hiding. Commander Vextar was found cowering behind a barricade made from furniture taken from the offices where he had planned the conquest of human worlds. Colonel Steve Mitchell personally placed the restraints on the alien who had overseen Katie Sullivan's murder. Vexatar had been trying to destroy communications equipment that contained evidence of Empire war crimes when the human soldiers found him. "You're coming with us," Mitchell said as he dragged the alien commander toward the transport ship. "There's someone you need to meet." The journey back to New Haven Colony took 3 days through hyperspace lanes now controlled by human fleets. Vextar sat in a detention cell, watching liberated worlds pass by outside his window. Everywhere he looked, former Empire territory was flying human flags. Patrick Sullivan waited at the landing pad where Katie had died 8 months earlier. The flowers had grown back exactly where she had fallen, and the colonists had built a simple memorial from local stone. Today, justice would finally be served in the place where innocents had been murdered. Lisa Sullivan stood beside her husband, holding the bundle of flowers their daughter had picked on her last morning alive. She had preserved them using a stasis field powered by captured alien technology. Katie's gift to the galaxy would witness the trial of her killer. President Davis arrived on New Haven accompanied by representatives from every species the Empire had enslaved over the centuries. The trial would be broadcast across the galaxy so everyone could see what happened to those who murdered children. Dr. Angela Parker had flown in from Earth to serve as an expert witness about Katie's life and dreams. She had interviewed the child's teachers and friends to build a complete picture of the innocent girl whose death had changed galactic history. Katie wanted to be a teacher like her mother, Dr. Parker testified. She dreamed of visiting other worlds and helping people learn about different cultures. She believed that understanding would bring peace to the galaxy. The irony was not lost on anyone in the courtroom. Katie Sullivan had died trying to build the kind of friendship between species that her murder had made impossible. The aliens had destroyed the very thing they could have had. Commander Vextar showed no remorse during his testimony. He maintained that killing the human child had been a necessary demonstration of Empire authority. He claimed that showing mercy to enemies only encouraged future rebellion. The child represented a future threat to galactic order, he stated coldly. Eliminating potential resistance early prevents larger conflicts later. Patrick Sullivan was allowed to address the court as the representative of all humanity. He spoke slowly and clearly so every word would be translated correctly for the galactic audience watching the broadcast. "You thought killing our children would make us submit," he said, looking directly at Vextar. "You believed that destroying innocence would break our spirit. You were wrong about everything." Lisa Sullivan took the witness stand holding her daughter's preserved flowers. She described Katie's personality and dreams in simple words that needed no translation. Love was universal even if aliens had forgotten how to recognize it. "She picked these flowers to welcome strangers to our world," Lisa testified. "She died believing that kindness could overcome fear. Her last act was trying to make friends with the soldiers who killed her." The evidence phase of the trial lasted 1 week as prosecutors presented recordings of Empire communications proving that Katie's murder was part of a deliberate policy of terrorizing human populations. The aliens had planned to kill children as examples to their parents. Admiral Harrison testified about the discovery of mass graves on other Empire worlds where alien soldiers had murdered families who refused to submit. Katie Sullivan was not Their first victim? But she would be their last. The Empire's mistake was not just killing one human child, Harrison stated. Their mistake was believing we would accept it. General Foster described the military preparations that had begun within hours of Katie's death. She revealed the existence of secret weapons programs and hidden shipyards that had been building humanity's response for months. We were ready for war before they fired the shot that killed Katie Sullivan, she testified. But that little girl's murder gave us the moral certainty we needed to use our capabilities. Dr. Kevin Brooks explained how his weapons had been specifically designed to counter every advantage the Empire possessed. Years of captured alien technology had been studied and reverse-engineered to create tools of perfect revenge. Every system we built was tested against Zephyrian defenses, he said. We wanted to be absolutely certain that when the time came for justice, there would be no escape for child killers. The galaxy watched as humanity presented evidence of planning and preparation that proved their response to Katie's murder had not been emotional reaction, but calculated justice. The humans had been ready for this war longer than anyone realized. Tony Garcia described the volunteer recruitment that had brought millions of humans into military service within days of seeing Katie's murder. Veterans had abandoned retirement to fly combat missions against her killers. Every pilot in my squadron had a personal reason to fight, he testified. But we all flew for Katie Sullivan. She represented everything good about humanity that the Empire tried to destroy. Captain Rachel Moore testified about the systematic destruction of Empire infrastructure and the liberation of enslaved worlds. Human forces had shown mercy to populations, under alien control while offering none to their oppressors. We distinguished between victims and victimizers, she stated. The Empire never learned that difference. That's why they lost. Maria Rodriguez revealed the intelligence operations that had given humanity perfect information about Empire fleet movements and defensive capabilities. Her teams had been monitoring alien communications for years, waiting for the right moment to act. We knew everything about their military structure before the war began, she testified. They never suspected that the primitive humans they despised were reading their most secret communications. The defense phase of the trial lasted 2 days as Vextar's appointed counsel argued that he had been following lawful orders under Empire military doctrine. The argument failed because human law did not recognize the authority of child killers. Murdering innocents is a crime regardless of what legal system authorizes it, Judge William Hayes ruled. No government has the right to order the death of children. The verdict was unanimous among the panel of judges representing 12 different species. Commander Vextar was found guilty of murder, war crimes, and crimes against sentience. The sentence was death, by the same method he had used to kill Katie Sullivan. Patrick Sullivan was offered the honor of carrying out the execution, but declined. Katie wouldn't want her father to become a killer even for justice, he said. Let someone else pull the trigger. Captain Chris Nelson of the UES Katie's Hope volunteered for the duty. His ship had been the first to liberate New Haven, and his crew had voted unanimously to request the honor of avenging the child whose name they carried. The execution took place at sunset in the exact spot where Katie had died. Commander Vextar was strapped to a chair facing the memorial stone that bore her name and birth date. The preserved flowers from her last mourning lay at the base of the marker. Any final words? Captain Nelson asked the condemned alien. Vexitar looked around at the humans gathered to witness his death. He saw no hatred in their faces, only the cold determination of people who protected their children above everything else. You have doomed your species, he said. Other empires will come. They will remember what you did here. President Davis stepped forward to answer for all humanity. Let them come. Let them all see what happens to those who harm our children. Let them learn the lesson you taught us. The plasma rifle fired at exactly the moment the sun disappeared behind New Haven's mountains. Commander Vextar vanished in the same blue light that had erased Katie Sullivan 8 months earlier. Justice was finally complete. The trial and execution were broadcast to every corner of the galaxy where species that had been under Empire control celebrated their freedom. Humanity's response to one child's murder had liberated hundreds of worlds and billions of people. The Galactic Council formed by the liberated species offered Earth the leadership of the new alliance, but President Davis declined. We fought this. War for one little girl, she said. We're not looking to build an empire. Instead, humanity established the Human Protection Doctrine that became the foundation of the new galactic order. Any species that harmed human civilians would face total war from Earth's fleets. The doctrine was carved in stone beside Katie's memorial. Admiral Harrison retired after the war but remained on New Haven as the colony's protector. He built a small house near Katie's grave where he could tend the flowers that grew where she had died. Patrick and Lisa Sullivan adopted 3 children orphaned by the Empire's occupation of other worlds. They named their new school the Katie Sullivan Learning Center and dedicated it to the dream of understanding between species. The first human ships dropped out of hyperspace above New Haven Colony at exactly 00:0600 Galactic Standard Time. Captain Chris Nelson's destroyer, UES Katie's Hope, led the Liberation Fleet into battle against the Zephyrian garrison that had occupied the world for 8 months. Hostile ships detected, the alien sensor operator reported to the garrison commander. 12 vessels approaching from multiple vectors. The Zephyrian commander looked at his displays in confusion. Intelligence had reported no human military activity in this sector. The approaching ships were broadcasting identification codes he had never seen before. What class of vessels are those? He asked his tactical officer. Unknown, sir. They don't match any human ship designs in our database. The UES Katie's Hope opened fire first, with weapons the aliens had never encountered. The new plasma cannons tore through Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. The first enemy ship exploded in a ball of superheated gas before its crew could even return fire. Impossible, the garrison commander said as he watched his defenses crumble. Human weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Captain Nelson smiled grimly as his ship's guns destroyed another alien vessel. They can now, you bastards. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human fleets emerged from hiding to strike Empire targets simultaneously. Admiral Harrison's flagship UES Retribution led the assault on the Zephyrian Military Academy, where future officers trained to conquer primitive worlds. All ships engage at will, Harrison ordered. No survivors. The Academy's defense platforms opened fire with concentrated energy beams that should have destroyed the approaching human vessels. Instead, the beams scattered harmlessly off new shield systems that Dr. Brooks had designed specifically to counter Zephyrian weapons. Lieutenant Paul Evans coordinated the tactical display from his position aboard the battlecruiser UES Vengeance. His screens showed Empire ships dying across 12 star systems as humanity's hidden fleets revealed themselves. Empire fleet strength down 30% and falling, he reported to Captain Moore. They're not adapting to our new weapons. Captain Moore watched alien ships explode on her main viewer. They've never faced an enemy that could match their technology before. They don't know how to fight when they're not the strongest. On New Haven Colony, the Liberation Ground Forces landed under cover of the orbital bombardment. Major Nicole Taylor led 300 Marines in powered armor as they stormed the administration building where Zephyrian soldiers had been torturing human colonists. Patrick Sullivan heard the sound of human weapons fire echoing through the mining complex where he had been forced to work. The alien guards were running toward defensive positions, leaving their prisoners unguarded for the first time in months. "It's starting," he said to the other colonists. "Earth hasn't forgotten us." Lisa Sullivan gathered the colony children in the school building where she had been forced to teach them Zephyrian submission. Through the windows, she could see human fighters strafing alien positions with weapons that lit up the sky. "Stay down and stay quiet," she told the children. "Help is coming." The battle for New Haven lasted 6 hours. When it ended, every Zephyrian soldier on the planet was dead. Major Taylor personally executed the alien who had murdered Katie Sullivan after finding him hiding in the colony's water treatment facility. "This is for Katie," she said before pulling the trigger. Captain Tony Garcia flew his fighter through the wreckage of a Zephyrian battlecruiser that had been trying to escape the New Haven system. His squadron had destroyed 12 enemy ships without losing a single pilot. The new technology gave them advantages the aliens could not overcome. "Control, this is Revenge Leader," he reported. "All enemy vessels in Sector 7 destroyed. No human casualties." Similar reports came in from across the galaxy as human forces systematically destroyed Empire installations. The Zephyrians had scattered their fleets across hundreds of worlds. Believing their territory was too large to attack effectively, they had never faced an enemy capable of coordinating simultaneous strikes across such distances. Commander Vextar received the first reports of the human attacks while inspecting another occupied colony. His aide's hands shook as he delivered the news that their forces were being destroyed everywhere at once. "How is this possible?" Vextar demanded. "Humans don't have the ships or weapons for this kind of operation." "Sir, our intelligence was wrong," the aide replied. "They've been building a hidden fleet. Their technology is more advanced than we believed." Vextar felt something he had never experienced before in 30 years of military service. Fear. The humans were not supposed to be capable of this level of warfare. They were supposed to be a primitive species easily controlled through superior firepower. Dr. Kevin Brooks monitored the battle reports from his facility on Luna as his weapons performed beyond even his optimistic projections. The Zephyrian Empire had based their entire military doctrine on technological superiority that no longer existed. "Their shield frequencies are completely predictable," he reported to Admiral Harrison. "Our weapons are designed to counter every defensive system they use. They can't adapt fast enough to save themselves." Engineer Brandon Lewis had developed adaptive artificial intelligence systems that learned from each engagement and updated human tactics in real time. Every battle made humanity's forces more effective, while the Empire struggled to understand what was happening. "Their response time to new threats is too slow," he explained during the tactical briefing. "By the time they figure out how to counter one of our systems, we've already moved on to the next phase." The liberation of enslaved worlds proceeded ahead of schedule as species that had been under Empire control for centuries joined the human fleet. Captain Jennifer Scott led special operations teams that captured key Zephyrian installations and freed populations that had been waiting generations for rescue. "The Altarians want to join our fleet," she reported after liberating their homeworld. "They're offering their industrial facilities to support our war effort." Commander Eric Wright coordinated the systematic destruction of Empire infrastructure across their territory. Military academies were destroyed to prevent future officers from being trained. Weapons factories were captured to deny the Empire access to their own technology. "We're not just defeating them," he explained to his staff. "We're making sure they can never rebuild enough to threaten anyone again." The Zephyrian High Command attempted to negotiate after losing 60% of their fleet in the first week of fighting. They offered to return all occupied human worlds and pay massive reparations for Katie Sullivan's murder. President Davis received the alien surrender offer while sitting in the White House Situation Room. She read their terms carefully before, responding with 2 words that were broadcast across the galaxy: "No mercy." The war continued as human fleets pressed deeper into Empire territory. Every victory was dedicated to the memory of an 8-year-old girl who had died trying to give flowers to her killers. Her innocent face appeared on the nose art of fighter craft and the battle flags of warships. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of his flagship as it approached the Zephyrian homeworld. 3 months of continuous fighting had brought humanity to the heart of the empire that had ruled the galaxy for a millennium. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from the planetary government," his communications officer reported. Harrison thought about Katie Sullivan offering flowers to alien soldiers. He thought about her parents grieving beside her grave. He thought about every human child who would grow up safe because the monsters were finally being destroyed. "Ignore their surrender," he ordered. "All ships prepare for orbital bombardment." The siege of the Zephyrian capital would last 3 months and end only when the last alien defender was dead. The empire that had murdered one innocent child to prove their power was learning the true cost of their mistake. Captain Rachel Moore's battlecruiser led the assault on the Imperial Palace, where the aliens who had ordered Katie's death were hiding. Her weapons batteries charged for the attack that would finish what began in a small colony town square. "For Katie Sullivan," she said as her ship opened fire. The plasma cannons that Dr. Brooks had designed for this moment tore through the palace defenses like tissue paper. The building where the Empire had planned the conquest of humanity collapsed. In flames and rubble, Maria Rodriguez monitored alien communications as the Empire's command structure completely collapsed. Years of intercepting their signals had given her perfect understanding of their military language. "They're trying to evacuate their leadership," she reported. "All escape routes are being monitored by our ships." There would be no escape for Child. Killers. The human fleets had surrounded the Zephyrian homeworld completely. Every alien ship that tried to flee was destroyed by pilots who remembered why they were fighting. Beth Carter shot down the transport carrying the Empire's supreme commander as it tried to reach hyperspace. Her fighters' weapons turned the alien leader into cosmic dust before he could escape justice. "Katie is avenged," she said over the comm system. The war that began with the murder of one little girl was ending with the complete destruction of the empire that had killed her. Humanity had 6 months after Katie Sullivan's murder, the hidden shipyards of Luna worked around the clock building humanity's instruments of revenge. Captain Rachel Moore stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching her crew run combat drills for the 100th time. The battlecruiser was unlike anything humanity had built before, with weapons designed specifically to kill Zephyrians. Lieutenant Paul Evans called out targeting coordinates from his tactical station, while Chief Engineer Sandra White monitored the new plasma cannon systems from her position below decks. Every person aboard the Vengeance had volunteered for this mission after watching Katie's murder. They trained 18 hours a day preparing for the war everyone knew was coming. "All weapons locked on target," Evans reported. "Alien shield configurations downloaded and analyzed." "Fire!" Captain Moore ordered. The test target exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The debris fields scattered across space as the Vengeance's weapons proved they could penetrate any defensive system the Zephyrian Empire possessed. Months of captured alien technology and reverse engineering had produced the tools humanity needed for justice. Dr. Kevin Brooks watched the weapons test from the observation station orbiting Luna. His team had worked without sleep designing every component of the new warships. They had studied every battle the Empire had ever fought and found the weaknesses their enemies did not know they had. Phase 1 complete, he reported to Admiral Harrison. All ship classes ready for deployment. Project Retribution is operational. Harrison nodded as he reviewed the fleet status reports. Humanity now possessed 300 warships hidden in facilities across the solar system. The vessels were crewed by volunteers who had lost family members to alien aggression over the decades. Every captain had personal reasons to hate the Empire. The Zephyrians had no idea what was building in the darkness beyond their sensors. Their intelligence networks reported normal human activity. Merchant ships continued trading between colonies. Civilian communications followed regular patterns. The Empire believed humanity was quietly accepting their new status as subjects. Maria Rodriguez worked from a concealed facility on Mars, intercepting alien communications and feeding false information back to Empire intelligence services. Her team of analysts had spent months learning Zephyrian military codes and infiltrating their command networks. They're planning to expand the occupation to 12 more human worlds, she reported during the daily briefing. Admiral Kexmore is assembling a fleet of 800 ships for the operation. Admiral Harrison smiled coldly at the news. Perfect. They're concentrating their forces exactly where we want them. The Zephyrian Empire controlled over 200 worlds across the galaxy, but they had never faced an enemy that fought back effectively. Most species submitted after a demonstration of superior firepower. The few that resisted were crushed by overwhelming numbers and technology. Commander Vextar had been promoted after his successful occupation of New Haven Colony. He now commanded a battle group responsible for expanding human territory under Empire control. The death of one human child had proven to the Empire that humans would submit to proper authority. Intelligence reports no unusual military activity in human space, his aide reported. Their defense forces remain minimal and poorly equipped. Vextar felt satisfied with his assessment of human capabilities. They lack the warrior spirit necessary for effective resistance. Killing their young broke their will to fight. On Earth, President Davis met with her military commanders to review the final preparations for humanity's response. The war plans had been refined over months of detailed analysis. Every target had been selected, every ship had its assignment, every soldier knew what they were fighting for. "Are we ready?" she asked Admiral Harrison. "More than ready, Madam President," he answered. "The fleets are in position. Our intelligence networks have mapped every important Empire facility. Dr. Brooks has given us weapons that will surprise them." General Foster spread tactical displays across the conference table, showing Empire fleet positions throughout the galaxy. "We'll hit them simultaneously across 12 systems. They won't have time to coordinate a response." The President studied the attack plans one final time. This would be the largest military operation in human history, launched from secret facilities that officially did not exist. Success would free dozens of enslaved species. Failure would mean the extinction of humanity. "There's no going back after we start this," she said. "There was no going back the moment they killed Katie Sullivan," Harrison replied. Tony Garcia completed his final training mission in the new fighter craft designated the Revenge class. The ship incorporated alien technology with human engineering to create something faster and deadlier than anything in space. His squadron of former civilians had become elite pilots motivated by pure hatred for child killers. "Remember why we're here," Tony told his pilots over the comm system. "Every alien ship we destroy is justice for Katie Sullivan. Every Empire world we liberate is a step toward making sure no other human child dies like she did." His wingman was former teacher Beth Carter, whose classroom had watched the footage of Katie's murder on the day it happened. She had resigned her position and enlisted the same afternoon to become a combat pilot. "They made their choice when they pulled that trigger," she said. "Now they get to live with the consequences." Helen Carter's weapons laboratory had produced innovations that surprised even her experienced team. The new plasma rifles could penetrate Zephyrian personal armor. The ship mounted cannons fired rounds that disrupted alien shield generators. Every system was designed with one goal in mind. "These weapons exist for one purpose," she explained to the production supervisors. "To kill the things that murdered our children. Make sure every shot counts." The manufacturing facilities across Earth and Luna were producing weapons and ammunition at maximum capacity. Factories that had made farming equipment now built combat gear. Research centers that had studied peaceful applications of alien technology now focused on military uses. Captain Chris Nelson of the destroyer UES Katie's Hope ran final systems checks before departure. His ship was one of 50 vessels assigned to liberate New Haven Colony where the war had begun. The operation would be humanity's first strike against the Empire. "All stations report ready," his executive officer announced. "Good," Nelson replied. "We're going home to finish what they started." The Zephyrian garrison on New Haven had grown to 500 soldiers occupying the colony administration building and several defensive positions around the settlement. Commander Vexistar visited regularly to inspect the subjugation of the human population. Patrick Sullivan worked in the mines under alien supervision, while Lisa taught Zephyrian language classes to the colony children. The Empire wanted humans to learn their place in the galactic order. Neither parent had spoken about their daughter since her memorial service. But late at night, when the alien guards were not watching, the colonists gathered in secret to share news from other human worlds. They knew something was building. Ships had been detected moving through space on courses that avoided Empire sensors. "Help is coming," Patrick whispered to his wife as they knelt beside Katie's grave marker. "I can feel it." Lisa touched the flowers that grew where their daughter had died. "She would want us to be strong." Deep in space, Admiral Harrison's flagship UES Retribution led the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled toward their targets. Behind him sailed 300 warships carrying crews that had trained for months to avenge one murdered child. "All ships report ready for action," his communications officer announced. Harrison thought about Katie Sullivan offering flowers to alien soldiers. He thought about her parents grieving beside her grave. He thought about every human child who would grow up free because of what his fleet was about to do. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Operation Katie begins now." The quantum communication burst went out simultaneously to human fleets positioned across the galaxy. Ships that had been hiding in deep space for months suddenly activated their drives and headed for Empire targets. The war that began with the murder of one innocent girl was about to begin in earnest. On Earth, President Davis waited in the Situation Room for the first reports from the attack fleets. She held a photograph of Katie Sullivan taken on her 8th birthday, just 3 weeks before her death. The little girl smiled from the picture, unaware that her murder would change the course of galactic history. "For Katie," the president whispered as she watched the tactical displays showing human ships approaching their targets. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear for 1,000 years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and enslaved dozens of species. They believed themselves untouchable by primitive races like humanity. They were about to learn their fatal mistake. They had killed the wrong child. They had broken the wrong heart. They had awakened a species that protected its young above everything else. The storm was coming, and there would be no mercy for child killers. The quantum communication burst from New Haven reached Earth's orbital stations within 6 hours of Katie Sullivan's death. The encrypted message contained 3 words that changed everything. Child murdered. Send help. Attached was the security. Footage that would soon be seen across human space. Admiral Jake Harrison sat in his office at Space Command headquarters reviewing routine patrol reports when his aide burst through the door. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mills handed him the data pad with shaking hands. She had watched the footage twice and could barely speak. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," she said. "From New Haven Colony. It's bad, sir. Really bad." Harrison took the pad and activated the video file. He watched an 8-year-old girl approach alien soldiers with flowers in her hands. He watched her offer them as gifts with an innocent smile. He watched the plasma bolt that erased her from existence. The Admiral's coffee cup fell from his hand and shattered on the floor. He had commanded fleets in 3 different conflicts, but had never seen anything that made his blood run cold like this. The casual nature of the murder was what shocked him most. The alien had killed Katie Sullivan like swatting an insect. "Get me President Davis immediately," Harrison said. "Then contact all fleet commanders. Emergency status as of right now." The president's emergency meeting convened within 2 hours. Cabinet members and military leaders gathered in the secure conference room beneath the White House. The footage played on the main screen while men and women who had seen decades of politics watched in stunned silence. General Amy Foster of Army Strategic Command was the first to speak. "This changes everything. We cannot let this stand. If we do nothing, now humanity becomes a target for every alien empire that wants to test our resolve." President Carol Davis sat quietly at the head of the table. She had a granddaughter Katie's age named Emma who lived in California with her daughter. The president kept imagining Emma in that town square holding flowers for alien soldiers. "How long until this footage reaches the public?" she asked. "It's already out there," answered Director of Intelligence Frank Cooper. "Colonial networks broadcast it before we could contain it. Every human world will have seen it within the next 12 hours. The president nodded slowly. She had been hoping to control the information flow, but maybe that was for the best. The people needed to understand what they were facing. They needed to see the true nature of the Zephyrian Empire. Across Earth, families gathered around their screens to watch the most important news broadcast in human history. The networks showed Katie's murder without censoring it. They wanted everyone to see exactly what had happened to one innocent child. Tony Garcia sat in his living room in Texas, watching the footage with his wife Maria and their son Miguel. Miguel was 9 years old, just 1 year older than Katie Sullivan. Tony had served as a fighter pilot for 12 years before retiring to civilian life. "Dad, why did they kill her?" Miguel asked. "She was just giving them flowers." Tony could not answer his son's question. There was no reason that made sense. The aliens had murdered Katie because they could, because they saw humans as things instead of people, because they had never learned that some lines should never be crossed. "I'm going back," Tony told his wife after Miguel went to bed. "I'm re-enlisting tomorrow." Maria Garcia had known her husband for 15 years. She could see the look in his eyes that meant his decision was final. "How long will you be gone?" "Until every one of those things is dead," Tony answered. The recruitment centers across Earth and Luna were overwhelmed within hours of the broadcast. Veterans who had retired years ago returned to active duty. Young men and women who had never considered military service lined up outside recruiting stations. Parents whose children were Katie's age volunteered for the most dangerous assignments available. Helen Carter was 62 years old and had spent 40 years designing weapons systems for the Navy before retiring to her farm in Oregon. She watched Katie's murder 3 times before making her decision. She called her old supervisor at the Weapons Development Center. "I'm coming back," she said. "Give me a laboratory and unlimited resources. We're going to build something special." The supervisor had been hoping she would call. "What do you need, Helen?" "Everything that kills aliens," she answered. Deep beneath Luna's surface, in facilities that most humans did not know existed, work was already beginning. For decades, Earth's government had been reverse engineering alien technology captured from crashed ships and failed invasions. The projects had been secret because humanity was not supposed to have such capabilities. Dr. Kevin Brooks led the team that had been developing weapons specifically designed to counter Zephyrian shields and armor. Project Retribution had been theoretical until now. Suddenly, it became the most important research program in human history. "How long until we have working prototypes?" Admiral Harrison asked during his inspection of the lunar facilities. 6 months for small arms," Dr. Brooks answered. 18 months for ship-mounted systems. "But, sir, if we're really doing this, we need to start building ships now. The current fleet won't be enough." Harrison looked at the weapons designs displayed on the laboratory screens. Humanity had been preparing for this war longer than anyone realized. They had just been hoping it would never come. President Davis addressed the nation from the Oval Office at 8 o'clock that evening. Her speech was broadcast to every human world and translated into dozens of languages. She spoke directly to the camera with the kind of controlled fury that made dictators nervous. "Today, the Zephyrian Empire murdered one of our children," she began. Katie Sullivan was 8 years old. She died trying to make friends with the aliens who came to enslave her world. She died because she believed in the goodness of others. The president paused to let her words sink in across human space. "The Empire believes we will submit because we are young and weak. They believe killing our children will make us afraid. They are wrong. They have awakened something in humanity that has been sleeping too long." In homes and military bases across dozens of worlds, humans watched their leader promise justice for Katie Sullivan. "We will not negotiate with child killers. We will not compromise with those who see our innocence as weakness. We will teach the galaxy that humanity protects its own. Katie Sullivan will be avenged." The president ended her speech with words that would be remembered for generations. "They wanted to break our spirit by killing our children. Instead, they have chosen their own destruction. We are coming for them." Within hours of the president's speech, military production facilities across Earth began operating at maximum capacity. Shipyards that had been building cargo vessels switched to warship construction. Factories that made civilian electronics started producing military hardware. Danny Campbell kissed his wife Laura goodbye before reporting to the recruitment center in downtown Seattle. Their son Alex was 17 and wanted to enlist immediately. But Danny made him promise to finish school first. "Someone has to survive to remember why we fought," Danny told his son. "Katie Sullivan deserves to be remembered by the generation that grows up free because of what we're about to do." The Zephyrian Empire issued a statement dismissing human anger as emotional weakness typical of primitive species. Commander Vextar appeared on galactic news networks explaining that the child's death was necessary for maintaining order. The Kai aliens did not understand what they had done. They had ruled the galaxy for so long through fear that they had forgotten what happened when someone stopped being afraid. They had broken the wrong heart. They had killed the wrong child. They had awakened the wrong species. Admiral Harrison stood on the observation deck of Earth's primary orbital station, watching construction crews work around the clock building new warships. The vessels taking shape in the shipyards were not the peaceful exploration craft humanity was known for. These were instruments of war designed for one purpose. General Foster joined him at the viewing window. "How long do you think we have before they realize their mistake?" "It doesn't matter," Harrison answered. "By the time they understand what's coming, it will be too late to stop it." Far away on New Haven Colony, Patrick and Lisa Sullivan knelt beside the memorial marker placed where their daughter had died. The flowers Katie had picked were growing back in the same spot. Other colonists had planted more around the simple stone that bore her name. Patrick looked up at the stars where he knew Earth's fleets were preparing. His little girl's murder would not go unanswered. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had always protected their children above everything else. The morning sun cast long shadows across the fields of New Haven Colony as Katie Sullivan picked wildflowers near the settlement's edge. The 8-year-old girl hummed a tune her mother Lisa had taught her while gathering the colorful blooms into a small bundle. Her father Patrick was busy in the administration building dealing with some visitors who had arrived during the night. Katie did not know these visitors were from the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. She did not understand that they had come to take control of her home. All she knew was that there were new people in the colony, and her mother always said it was polite to welcome guests. The Zephyrian ships had landed without warning 3 hours before dawn. Commander Vextar led a force of 200 soldiers armed with plasma weapons and energy shields. Their gray armor reflected the alien metal of their technology. They moved through the colony with the confidence of those who had conquered hundreds of worlds. Patrick Sullivan stood in the colony's main meeting hall facing the alien commander. Around him sat the other colonists who helped run New Haven. They were farmers and teachers and engineers who had come to this world to build something peaceful. None of them were soldiers. "Your mining rights belong to the Empire now," Commander Vextar said in his translated voice. The words came through a device that made human speech from his alien sounds. "You will surrender all mineral extraction. To our control, your food production will increase by 40% to feed our garrison." Patrick felt his hands shake, but kept his voice steady. "This is our world. We built this colony with our own hands. These are our homes and our children's future." The commander's large black eyes showed no emotion. "Your species is young. You do not understand how the galaxy works. Submit now, and your people will be allowed to continue existing. Resist and face the consequences." Outside the meeting hall, Captain Ryan Murphy of the Colonial Defense Force watched the alien soldiers with growing anger. He had only 30 men under his command. They carried simple projectile weapons, while the aliens had technology that could level the entire settlement. But he would not let his people become slaves without a fight. Lisa Sullivan taught her morning class in the school building not far from where the meeting was taking place. The children asked her questions about the strange ships they had seen landing. She tried to keep them calm while her heart raced with worry. She could see alien soldiers patrolling the streets through her classroom window. Katie finished picking her flowers and started walking back toward the colony center. She wanted to give some to her mother and maybe share a few with the new visitors. Her grandmother had always said that flowers made everyone happy. The negotiation in the meeting hall was going badly. Patrick refused to sign the documents that would give the Empire control of their world. Other colonists supported him even though they could see the weapons pointed at them through the windows. "You have 1 hour to reconsider," Commander Vextar said. "After that we will begin taking what we need by force. Your compliance is preferred but not required." The alien soldiers spread out through the colony to wait for their commander's deadline. They set up weapons positions and energy barriers. Some of them entered homes and businesses to inventory what they found. The colonists watched in fear, as their peaceful world was transformed into an occupied territory. Katie walked down the main street carrying her bundle of flowers. She saw one group of alien soldiers standing near the water fountain in the town square. They looked different from any people she had ever seen, but she was not afraid. Her parents had taught her that differences made the world interesting. She approached the aliens with the innocent curiosity that only children possess. The soldiers were surprised to see a small human walking toward them without fear. Most species ran when they saw Zephyrian troops. "Hello," Katie said in her clear young voice. "I picked these for you. They smell really nice." The lead soldier was named Zakthul. He had been fighting for the Empire for 20 years. He had seen countless worlds fall under Zephyrian control. He believed that showing mercy to enemies only made them stronger later. Katie held out her flowers toward the alien soldiers. She smiled the way children smile when they want to make friends. The colorful blooms seemed bright against the gray metal of the soldier's armor. Zakthul looked down at the small human. He thought about how this child would grow up to resist the Empire like her parents were doing now. He thought about future rebellions and the trouble that mercy could cause. In his mind, humans were just another species that needed to be controlled. Other colonists began to notice what was happening in the town square. Lisa Sullivan saw her daughter from the school window and started running toward the street. Patrick was still in the meeting hall arguing with the commander. Captain Murphy watched from his position near the defense building. "These are for you," Katie said again, holding the flowers higher. "My mom says flowers make everyone happy. Do you want to smell them?" Zakthul raised his plasma rifle without warning. The weapon hummed as it charged with deadly energy. Other aliens did not stop him. They believed he was following proper procedure for dealing with potential threats. Lisa Sullivan ran through the streets screaming her daughter's name. She could see Katie standing innocently in front of the armed soldiers. She pushed past other colonists who tried to help her reach the square faster. Katie saw the weapon pointing at her but did not understand what it meant. She had never seen violence in her short life. The colony was a place where people helped each other and solved problems with words. She thought maybe the soldier wanted to examine her flowers more closely. The plasma bolt hit Katie Sullivan before her mother could reach her. The 8-year-old girl disappeared in a flash of blue light that left only scattered flower petals on the ground. The smell of burned air filled the town square. Lisa Sullivan's scream echoed off the buildings around the square. She fell to her knees where her daughter had been standing and gathered the scattered flower petals with shaking hands. Other colonists rushed to help her, but nothing could bring Katie back. Captain Murphy and his men raised their weapons, but they were too outnumbered to fight. The alien soldiers watched the grieving humans with cold eyes. To them, this was just another day of maintaining order in the Empire. Patrick Sullivan heard his wife scream from inside the meeting hall. He ran outside to find Lisa holding flower, petals, and crying over the spot where their daughter had died. The reality of what had happened hit him like a physical blow. Commander Vextar emerged from the building and surveyed the scene. He showed no emotion about the dead child. "This is what happens when your species resists the natural order," he announced to the gathered colonists. "Submit now, or watch more of your young die." The colonel's security cameras had recorded everything. The footage of Katie Sullivan's murder would soon travel across human space faster than any ship could fly. A little girl offering flowers to her killer would become the image that changed everything. Patrick Sullivan looked up from his wife's tears to stare at the alien commander. Something had broken inside him that could never be repaired. Something was being born in its place that the Empire did not yet understand. The Zephyrians had made their fatal mistake. They had killed a human child in front of her parents. They had destroyed innocence and replaced it with something far more dangerous. They had awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping for too long. The war had begun with the murder of one little girl who only wanted to share her flowers.